Coming up tonight on ESGN TV, we bring you up to speed on the World Championship Series of Blizzard and talk all about its format. We chat with Mr. Bitter from NASL about their qualifier process, and we check in with Susie Kim, who has the latest on ProLeague. All this and more, welcome to the Daily News. Hello from Studio 1 in Babelsberg. Dan Cho back for another day of exciting news in the esports industry. As mentioned yesterday, in this first week, we'll spend a day covering each game in depth, today being StarCraft 2, until we get all systems running. Today is January 7th, and on this day in history, G League Season 2 concluded in 2012 with Invictus Gaming defeating LGD International 3-1. And also, in 1927, the Harlem Globetrotters played their first ever game. Ballin'. We start the news with WCS talk. It's quite astonishing to think that Blizzard's WS system is now entering its third year. While the WCS Global Finals at BlizzCon was certainly a fun event, the impact of Korean dominance was felt as 15 out of 16 players represented Korea. After months of speculation whether Blizzard would enforce a region lock, particularly in WCS America, a blue post came out with lots of infographic on the changes. Now, it can look a little bit intimidating and complicated with all of the flowcharts, but here are some of the main points. WCS remains a 3-season system in America, Europe, and Korea. The broadcast times will still be separate on Twitch, and they're going to keep their global ranking systems from last year. Overall, the prize pool will be $1.6 million, but here are some of the important details as well. WCS America and Europe will get partial region lock for their qualifiers, securing spots in other places. Other key points include Korea's increased prize money to reward the harder system, more opportunities to win WCS points through regional play, and no more season finals. Instead, the prize money that's been planned for those went back into the regions. To find out all the information, head over to starcraft2.com/WCS. And with the changes of 2014, Challenger League qualifiers have already begun. As per usual, ESL lent out the tournament to community streamers to cover as much of the tournament as possible. Here are a few highlights from the WCS Europe's second stream, featuring players like Hero Marine, Bly, Hearthstone. All those guys were playing extremely well and managed to secure a spot for 2014. Taking a look at some of the results for starting with the WCS America NA qualifier, we had players like Saravati, Bales, Select, and Violet, who recently got his visa. Congrats over to him as well. And over in Europe, qualifier number 1, we had players like Grubby, Haswab, Straylock, Elfie, Jokchi, and Cross. Over in qualifier number 2, Bly, Zanster, sort of, Mini Razor, Harsum, and Baby Knight. So lots of Protosses and Zergs. Congrats to all of the winners. As we mentioned earlier, WCS America also has another qualifier spot reserved to give more opportunities to non-Americans who don't have their own regions. Our partner GameFi closely followed in on the action for the Chinese qualifier. Let's see what they have to say.
StarCraft 2 World Championship Series ushers its new season in 2014. Previously, all signs showed that the playing area in China would not be planned as usual. However, after a round of talks, there is a new breakthrough for Chinese players. Blizzard offered 3 wildcard slots in WCS America, which meant that finally 3 players were qualified for the WCS Challenger League. In recently finished 2014 WCS Chinese qualifier, 3 veterans, Zhu Tudming, Zhu Courage, and Ji Sigua, who have been going on campaigns for many years in SC2, broke through a tight encirclement to be qualified for WCS America. They will join hands with their teammates IG Jim, IG Maxed, and Zhu Top to establish the Chinese's most powerful lineup in history and launch a new march towards the blue ribbon in the competition field of SC2. It is worth mentioning, though, that there is an impression that SC2's popularity has cooled in China, yet 128 quota for 2014 Chinese WCS qualifier was taken as soon as released, reminding us of its powerful appealingness. As a benchmarking event in global esports, SC2 has featured over a $10 million prize pool since 2010. WCS 2014 is an official race by Blizzard and Master Hands of SC2. Players will be selected from all over the world for tournaments in America, Europe, and South Korea. This will cover a whole year, and the prize pool is over $1,600,000 US. However, due to the adverse factors such as time difference and network delay, the only Chinese players to enter were Jim, IG Maxed, and Zootop. Jim was even qualified for the WCS Season 2 finals, but unfortunately, he lost this chance because of a visa problem. All these 6 players from the Chinese's strongest team have practiced in SC2 for many years, and WCS 2014 might mean the last one for some of them. Although the barrier for the entry of competition has already been removed, the formidable South Korean opponents are still there. Let's see what will happen.
The Chinese qualifier saw 3 Zergs, Tunming, Courage, and Shiguao make it through. Good luck to them in 2014. We all know the community loves their Chinese players. Thanks again also to Gamefi for providing that footage, our partner. We want to remind you about their upcoming broadcast on January 13th and January 18th for the conclusion of their G League Season 3, Dota 2, and League of Legends. While it's green roses and paths for a fresh start in Europe and China, it feels like nothing but thorns in WCS America. The region has received the most attention in reformatting with new seeds and a partial region lock to try and give non-Koreans a better shot at qualification. NASL held the first Challenger League qualifiers of the year, but the happy commemoration ended up in a disaster as fans were up in arms over the lack of live streams, registrations failing to sign up notable players, and administrators reportedly went missing in the middle of the tournament. In fact, due to the absence of admins, fake accounts named NASL admin was going around spreading false information. NASL responded by letting community streamers cast the event and retooling their administrative team. But then yesterday's wildcard qualifier ended in an even worse state. Midway tournament, NASL rescheduled the qualifier because the registration process was bobbled once again. NASL has certainly received waves of criticism for handling of the process, but I had a chance to talk today and sit down with Mr. Bitter to chat about what exactly happened. Hey everybody, I'm joined by Ben, Mr. Bitter Nickel from NASL. Ben, thanks for joining me.
Hey Dan, good to be here.
So Ben, I have to ask you, well first, I want to get your side of the story from NASL's perspective. What happened in those qualifiers for number 1?
What didn't happen in this qualifier? You know, there were problems from multiple angles here. I've been told that Binary Beast is rolling out a new website. They're updating or something. And apparently they're blaming that on some of the lost registrations. We had the issue with the Muslim. He missed registration. He reached out to me. I told him we'd get it taken care of, and it didn't get taken care of. It fell through the cracks. So that was a pretty big mistake. And then there was, you know, other things along the way, like just questionable choices. But it's a multifaceted question that you're asking. There were lots of mistakes.
NASL has been running qualifiers for years. This is the 3rd year of StarCraft for NASL as an organization. You guys ran 4 qualifiers for NASL seasons. You've had 2 WCS seasons. What can be done to make sure this doesn't happen again? You guys have run multiple qualifiers in the past, and it's already fallen apart. What kind of measures are you guys taking to ensure that this doesn't happen? Are you just going to roll the dice and hopefully it doesn't happen again?
It's not going to be dice being rolled. Like I said, we'll be adding more people. There's going to be a lot more eyes on it than were this time, obviously. And you know, Dan, there was a time when I would have said, maybe when I did say, perhaps on video somewhere, that NASL can do it better, right? That we've got a great team of people, the best team of people in the world, and that we run a better, tighter show than anyone else. And we all wanted to see the best StarCraft show possible. And I think there were times when we put on the best StarCraft show possible.
And you're saying that's changed now? That
you know,
it's not the same?
It's not the same team, man. It's a different group of guys. And the guys that I have in there now, you know, I love them. They're working hard and they're learning fast. But you know, some of the key players that were helping us execute at the level we were executing at once before are no longer part of the organization.
Well, that's definitely a very mature thing to own up, but we also want to focus on what you guys are doing, because you did say that you're splitting the time in the studio amongst other games. What are some of the things that we can look forward to from you, from out of your organization, coming up in 2014?
Well, for me in particular, I am fortunate enough to be able to refocus on just StarCraft in 2014, so I'm going to be working as hard as I can on making sure that when the StarCraft show does go live, that it's as good as it can be. And for all intents and purposes, that is my lone goal for 2014, making the best of StarCraft and of the WCS.
Well, that's right, and as we head into the future, Ben, I've been asking this question to a lot of people. In your professional opinion, as a guy that's been working in the space for quite some time, what do you think is the next step for esports as a whole?
One of the next steps is letting this next generation of gamers grow up. Remember, our parents don't really understand what it is that we do or why it is that we love it in general. But our children and our younger siblings, they're going to grow up and they're going to know exactly what's going on and why it's so cool. So as the base of gamers out there continues to grow and mature, you're going to see a lot more interest in esports and a lot more people wanting to spend time watching these competitions or investing in these competitions or buying the merchandise for their favorite teams. We're on the right track. Now it's just a matter of continuing to build a bigger and better show and letting the whole industry grow as a result of that.
And with that note, I think it's a great way to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining me, Ben. Do you have any last words, comments, or shout-outs before we let you go?
No, man, just I can't wait to see what you've been working on, Dan. I miss having you alongside in-house, and I'm excited to see what you guys put together out in Berlin.
Thank you so much, Ben, for joining me. Follow him on Twitter at MrBitterTV, and you can also find him broadcasting at NASL.TV. Thanks again, Ben, for joining me.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks again, Bitter, for stopping by. The next qualifier will take place next Monday on January 13th with a clear distinction on the requirements. If you have 200 wins between the last 2 ladder seasons on one account, you are eligible to sign up. For all information, head on over to NASL.TV. Let's take a break. When we come back, we talk about GOM's new 2014 plans and see what's up with ProLeague with Susie Kim. Plus, later on, we have a quick chat with Gameheart, Nathanias, ChanmanV, and more. This is the Daily News. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back, everybody, to the Daily News. Yesterday, GOM announced their 2014 plans, which includes 3 new seasons of GSL. The Global Championships, which will be a Tier 3 WCS tournament that includes American and European regional seeds, and also a GOM Classic, a Brood War tournament making a comeback with an 8-player invitational in February. The action all begins January 15th with GSL Season 1 under the new brand GOM EXP. For all that information, head on over to gomexp.com. You know, back in the day, before Artosis moved into the casting booth, do you know who was commentating Brood War alongside Tasteless at GOM TV? It was Susie Kim, our correspondent in Korea, who was at Spot TV Studios to watch ProLeague. Let's see what she has for us today.
Hi, this is Susie Kim with ESGN TV. I'm standing here at the Nexon Arena for StarCraft 2 Pro League. And before I go into today's matches, I'm just going to give you a quick recap of what happened on Sunday and Monday. On Sunday, we had the first matchup versus Jin Air Green Wings versus KT Rolster. Green Wings winning it out 3-2. TY and Flash taking the first 2 games, but then Cure and Maru evening it out and Maru winning it for the team with the ace match. The second matchup was CJ Entis versus Galaxy Khan. Khan won 3-1. Unfortunately, Stork was the only one in his team to lose the game, and I know he's really disappointed about that, but we'll continue cheering for him anyway. On Monday, we had Prime versus MVP. MVP taking it all 3-0. And between the 3 games, actually, the third set with Keen, it's something you should look out for if you haven't watched the VOD, because he has some great microplay in that one. The second set was SK Telecom T1 versus Incredible Miracle. SK T1 winning that out because they are a fan favorite after all. And that brings us to today, Tuesday the 7th. The third day of week 2. Right now we are in the middle of Jin Air Green Wings versus CJ Entis. Jin Air taking the very first game where Terminator just pew-pewed his way through, melting out Zerg units to win that first match. Right now we could see that it's Maru versus Hero. And as this game progresses, I'm just going to give you a rundown of what's going on. Now, these two teams, CJ Entis so far has not won any games, and so if they lose this, they're just going to be at the bottom of the list. So, you know, hopefully Hero will be able to pull out a game, and he really will be the hero of the team now, won't he? And for our second set, we have Samsung Galaxy Con versus KT Rolster. And for those of you who have been following StarCraft since the Brood War days, you know that these two teams have great history with each other, and they are both teams that have performed in an excellent manner. Basically, if Samsung Con wins today, then they are going to be right behind SK Telecom T1 for that first place position. However, if KT Rolster goes ahead and wins this, then we can see them getting into third place, nipping right behind the heels of the winners. So, games to look out for. I'm actually really excited to watch Flash versus Emotion. Flash versus anyone, really, because he's just a dynamic plays, and he's just a lot of fun to watch. And of course, I've been watching him and following his career since his Brood War days, so it's always good to see how much they've progressed through the years. So that's it. With these results, that will wrap up week 2 of Pro League, and you will see me back here again next Tuesday so I can give you more results for week 3. So I'm sitting here now with Maru from Jin Air Green Wings. He's obviously a fan favorite. I know all the foreigners really love him. So I just had a few questions for him about today's games. So today, your team won 3-0. Did you expect that to happen, and how do you feel about it? Okay, that's really, really good. Now, the second question I had for him was about his strategy. I noticed that in TVP, we don't usually use correspondents, but he went ahead and did that, and it kind of shocked people. So I'm wondering why he decided to make that move. Alright, and also the same goes with the spider mines. I know that there's a nerf on the spider mines, and people don't use it normally, but maybe he paired this just for Okay, and one last thing, I want him to say something to the foreign fans, to the community. Maybe he's got a couple of words for you all. Okay, and that's it. That's our short interview with Maru, and I can't wait to bring you guys more interviews in the future.
Pro League is every Sunday to Tuesday at 1900 KST. You've probably heard their new English casters as well. Oh, hold that thought. We'll talk about the Pro League standings right now. SK Telecom T1, to nobody's surprise, is leading everybody. The CJ Entis, a team that people hoped would pick it up, needs to start doing it now, down 0-3. Next time they'll be playing is January 12th against Incredible Miracle, and SK Telecom will face off against KT Rolster, the famed matchup. Now, as we mentioned before, there are some new casters at Pro League. Wolf Schroeder and Brendan Valdez are now calling the action, and Moonglade too, although he hasn't quite appeared just yet. They replaced Supernova Maniac and Whiplash from last year. But there was a third unofficial Pro League caster in the previous season as well. He stayed up at odd hours from his bedrooms until months later, after he caught the public eye, he was seen casting at a DreamHack event. Nathanias is a caster with rising exposure in 2013, and we had an opportunity to talk to him earlier today and reflect on the year. Hey everyone, I'm joined by Nathanias, a caster well known in the StarCraft 2 space. Nate, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Stan, for having me on. Hope everything's going well over there.
It's going great, and I'm really excited to have you and talk for just a few minutes. But before we go into what 2013 was like, I want you to introduce yourself to anybody who may not know what Nathanias is.
Well, I'm a StarCraft 2 caster. I just kind of moved into the space over this past year. I'm also a Terran player and been doing a couple events around I'd say around the European scene so far this year.
I want to actually talk to you a little bit about esports as a whole. There's been a lot of criticism of WCS in 2013, both positive and negative. What's your opinion about it, and what do you think about the landscape of esports on the whole level?
I think it's been a very interesting year as far as the criticisms towards WCS goes, especially in comparison to other systems, on the global esports scale. I think one thing that will have a big hand in the success of esports in general is just people's acceptance of it. There's a big cultural thing that I think makes it harder. A lot of people talked about the American region in the WCS needing region locking, but I feel like there are other fundamental issues just with how people perceive gaming, how much time people are able to invest into gaming, to be able to get those full-time jobs that make it, I think, a respectable enough of a position to put those hours in. Like people in the LCS, the Riot contracting the players and salarying them, I think makes it much more realistic. But as far as moving forward compared to 2013, it's still a long road ahead, I think, for a lot of the people that aren't in those, I guess, gaming culture type countries where it's not as easy to get together with people as in a country like, say, Korea, to practice with your friends and improve at games. The most core part of it all, just playing the game.
Right on. So let's talk a little bit about some positive stuff, because now we've talked about you as a caster and your involvement in the scene. What about talk about Nathanias as a fan? As we look back at 2013, what were some of your most memorable events, games, and stories that you've seen all throughout the year?
Well, I mean, as far as, memorable events, I mostly watched StarCraft this past year. Easily my favorite event as a spectator, just being able to go there. Probably my first time, obviously, seeing DreamHack Winter, just the scale of everything. But my favorite series, looking back, I'd have to say probably one of the ones that doesn't get mentioned as much. I think Flash versus Innovation at the first MLG was probably one of the coolest TVTs to be able to see. They had a really long game on Whirlwind, and it was one of the first times we kind of saw the mech play with the Hellbats come into StarCraft 2. I think another really good series. Obviously, I guess this is a little personal bias. I think Jaedong versus Stardust, the DreamHack Summer Grand Finals, were probably some of the craziest games I've ever seen. And I don't actually know how much they've been topped this year, having 8 probes win the game, killing a building extractor when the Army 100% couldn't fight against Jaedong. It was probably one of the most heart-pounding series that I've watched.
All right, well, thank you very much, Nathanias, for joining me. Do you have any last comments and shout-outs before we let you go?
Just thanks everybody that watched this interview, and thanks to you guys for having me on, and here's to a good year for esports 2014.
Nathanias casts and streams a lot. Check him out at twitter.com/NathaniasTV for all of your Nathanias needs. Thank you so much, Nate, and good luck in 2014.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks again, Nate, for stopping by. He's on the air quite often, whether it's community streams of tournaments or even his fun show matches like the Kappa Star League, a fun off-race show match series. Follow the link, twitch.tv/Nathanias. When we come back, we wrap up the day with our community spotlight. Ryan Shooter, the development of Gameheart, stops by for a quick chat, and we also talk with ChanmanV while taking a look at our 5-day forecast. The Daily News, we'll be right back.
We will win every series, for sure.
Be prepared to see Hearthstone like you've never seen it before.
do have some secret things planned, so you should watch out.
Our Hearthstone Fight Night coming up just a few minutes. Yesterday you saw Trump face off against Nimsh. Who's going to play tonight? The wheel will decide. Definitely tune in to see. Production value seems to be a buzzword within the esports industry to describe the broadcast presentation style and quality. One of the biggest reasons for StarCraft 2's improvement in that department has been in part thanks to Gameheart, the interface now commonly used across many mainstream tournaments. What started off as a simple custom game passion project has now evolved into something more. We got a chance to sit down with Ryan Shooter, the creator and developer of Gameheart, earlier today. Let's take a look. Hey everyone, I'm joined by Ryan Shooter, the developer for Gameheart. Ryan, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So for people who don't know who you are, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I'm the developer and designer of the Gameheart overlay, though overlay is probably not the most appropriate term for it anymore. It's just a suite of tools that allow tournaments and show matches to kind of increase their production quality really easily in StarCraft.
You've also been releasing updates. You've released your 6th update via a blog on Team Liquid. What's the current status of Gameheart? I know you recently had some cool features with countdown timers and whatnot. And what are some of the plans coming up in the future that you want to release?
Well, there's really not too much more coming. But when the 2.1 patch comes out, it'll release extension mods. And Gameheart will go from being a bunch of custom maps to being just a mod, which you can apply to any map.
Oh, cool.
And Blizzard is doing pretty good things as far as that's concerned. They've made that possible, so that's really awesome. And when that happens, I'm also going to be adding 2v2 support. So you'll be able to use Gameheart with 2v2 games, all the way up through 8-player games. Though some features may not work when you have 8 players because they don't make a lot of sense. Like, for example, the upgrade notifications when you have 8 players, there might be a huge number of them on screen. The other thing is the team-colored effects, things like force fields and time warps and stuff being colored like the player, so you know which, in a PvP, you know which player casted what.
Oh, awesome.
But those things, whenever you implement anything, you don't know how it's going to work when it's actually in game. You don't know how people are going to receive it or if it's really going to improve the experience. So, if you guys see those things and you don't like them, let us know so we can change them or remove them, or the tournaments can just not enable them.
Is there anything that you'd like to say as a last message for the year?
Well, thank you for supporting Gameheart. I think that we're still only scratching the surface of what is possible for improving the spectator experience using the mod tools that Blizzard has created. The possibilities here are really great. I hope that we take more advantage of that next year.
Ryan, before I let you go, do you have any last comments and shout outs that you'd like to say?
Thank you to everyone who contributed to my campaign. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting my updates. I know everyone probably gets sick of hearing about Gameheart sometimes, but I really appreciate it when you guys participate in the discussions that I propose on my updates and that type of thing.
Awesome. You can also send feedback to Ryan at RTShooter, SCHUTTER on Twitter. Thanks so much for joining me, Ryan, and hopefully we get to see all of Gameheart in 2014. Here's to a great year. Cheers.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks again, Ryan, for coming on. Follow him at Twitter, RTSHUTTER. Also, Ryan updates his Gameheart project regularly on his Team Liquid blog with all kinds of neat pictures and graphs for simple people like me to follow along and understand. Another consistent community contributor is ChanmanV, who has been faithfully putting on his shows Unfiltered, Value Town, Climbing the Ladder, you name it. His recent Unfiltered episode has garnered lots of attention as many critics online were outspoken about the chasm left by the hiatuses of shows like State of the Game, Inside the Game, and Meta. We got a chance to talk to ChanmanV before the show to talk about his year in WCS in today's Community Spotlight. ChanmanV, the host of shows like Unfiltered and Climbing the Ladder. ChanmanV, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, man. Anytime, dude. I'm pleasure. I know we've been planning this interview for a while, so I'm glad we're getting a chance to sit down and actually get a chance to do it.
That's right. I was going to talk to Chris back at BlizzCon 2013, but we didn't get a chance to meet. He was pretty busy. But thanks for stopping by. I first wanted to ask you a little bit about what it's like hosting shows, because a lot of people don't really get to see behind the scenes how everything goes. Can you explain to me from the very beginning, how'd you get into hosting and where it's taken to you today?
I got into hosting the shows and just producing these shows, a little bit over 2 years now. And it really just started with me getting coaching sessions from some of the pros in StarCraft 2. And I was streaming at the time because I just felt like, if I'm paying for coaching sessions, I might as well stream it so whoever can't afford coaching sessions can also watch. Some of those people eventually ended up messaging me and just asking me, what do you think about just doing a show with these things and just putting it together? So I just took a weekend, evaluated it, and looked into some of the software that was needed to do it, and decided just to start it up and just see where it would go, just have some fun with it. And it's kind of led me to where I am today. I mean, lots of other shows and ideas, lots of stuff happening until in between, of course, but that's kind of how it all got started. And it's kind of crazy thinking back at it at this point.
Is there anything that you're particularly excited about for 2014?
I'm really excited to see Hearthstone launch. I'm hoping 2014 will be the launch year for Hearthstone, because I'd like to see it on mobile, because what I do full time is mobile related, and I kind of know what the potential of a successful mobile game is, and having Hearthstone taking that channel or at least being released in that channel, I think is pretty exciting for the potential popularity of the game, as well as the potential popularity of the competitive side of it, the esports angle to it. So that I'm really, really looking forward to seeing. And, again, StarCraft 2, I'm looking forward to seeing if WCS can really get to the point where, a lot of us hardcore, a lot of us fans who, we're part of StarCraft at its peak can really, appreciate the new kind of format, and hopefully we can get closer to what it was back in 2011.
Thank you very much, Chris. Over 1,000 hours of content pushed out. Twitch.tv/ChanmanV, YouTube.com/ChanmanV, and you guessed it, Twitter.com/ChanmanV. Thank you so much, Chris, and I can't wait to see what comes out of your channel coming up in a bit. Thanks again, Chanman, for stopping by. You can find all of his shows at youtube.com/ChanmanV, where he puts on great content like you saw in the interview, some of the footage like Value Town and Unfiltered, or just follow him on Twitter at ChanmanV. By the way, have you seen the recent Forbes 30 Under 30 released? The 2014 games section includes familiar faces to the list like Sean Day9 Plot, but also a couple of new guys like Lee J. Dong, Justin Wong from Twitch, and even the Gun Run, Justin Ignacio, getting some love as well. To see the list for yourself, head on over to Forbes.com and click on the Lists button for the 30 Under 30 special report. Congrats, everybody who made the list. Wrapping up the day, let's take a look at the 5-day forecast. As you can see, coming up tomorrow, we have the Kappa Star League with Nathanias, like we mentioned. Right after his interview, Tasia vs. Minigun will race swap. Then going on into Thursday, we have the Iron Man Team Cup featuring a Team League Pro League format with StarCraft 2. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be put on by ESL Taiwan in English. That's going to be really cool as well. Heading over to Friday, we have the OGN Champions Winter Semifinals between Samsung Ozone and Najin White Shield. That's going to be an epic semifinals. On Saturday, we also have the WCS EU Challenger League qualifier number 3. It's not the last one, though, because on Sunday we'll have the ladder qualifier as well for the wild card, which will wrap up the rest of the weekend. That's it for the daily news from Dan Cho and the rest of the crew here at ESGN TV. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night. Fight Night is coming up right now.